What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's going on with NIO stock in the overall market. I'm also going to break down why NIO saw some nice upside today and why tomorrow is going to be another very important day as we have CPI coming out. So I'm going to break down why it's going to have a big effect on NIO, what you should be watching for as time progresses, and why NIO made a very, very nice move to the upside. We got this explosive move up to about over $6. And this thing is trying to uptrend very nicely as NIO is one of the top stocks trading for today. Before I begin the demo information, before I talk about what's happening to NIO, Tesla, SPY, and all these different tickers, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon, in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, when it comes to NIO, this thing outperformed the market, being up 5.17%. At one point, it was up even higher, hitting 6.23, trying to break above the 200 EMA. If it tries to break this on the 4-hour time frame, NIO could get a nice breakout and start pushing to much higher levels. So as NIO has seen some very, very nice moves to the upside, the question is what's going to impact this and how could things kind of continue from here? So, as a reminder, I want to go over some data first. Tomorrow is Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. We have CPI coming out an hour before the market opens. We have CPI, core CPI year over year and month over month. So, I'm just going to focus on year over year for now because that's the most important part. Year over year, we're expecting core CPI, that's CPI without food and energy, to be between 3.7 and 3.8%. All right. And then for CPI, this is going to be for all items year over year. We're expecting 3.1 to 3.2%. This is going to continue to affect the way the market moves. So get ready for a massive, massive move. Now, looking at the current data, okay, right now, CPI is on a clear downtrend. We could all kind of agree it's been downtrending since the past year. Now, core CPI is a bit more sticky. 3.7% is very realistic. It's very possible. It's been downtrending somewhat, but it's still kind of flat. And for all items CPI, this has been dropping. We saw a little increase in December, but now it's still continuing to fall. So we'll see if we get a target that's very close to what we got from before. We're also going to be watching to see how the market reacts to all of this, but it's going to be very interesting to watch. Now, with this coming out, I'm going to break down more details about this and how it could affect the charts in just a few minutes. But right now, the trend is still in the downwards direction, so it does favor that things will be very close to expectations, if not even below them. So I'll be watching to see what the numbers end up looking like. But now let's just talk about some earnings. We just got Oracle, Asana, and just a couple of others announcing earnings. For tomorrow, we have like Kohl's and ADM and some more retail. But let's talk about Oracle. Oracle shares are up quite a bit because it beat quarterly profit expectations, and AI-driven cloud demand is said to be increasing, which is good news for them. It's up almost 10%. It's a 46-year-old database that's just absolutely crushing it. And on top of this, they're expecting more and more large contracts reserving cloud infrastructure capacity because demand for their Gen 2 AI infrastructure is still exceeding supply. That alone was very, very bullish news. On top of this, when you look at the specific earnings, they're having strong guidance because of AI demand. They beat on EPS. Revenue is also very close to expectations. It was basically as expected. And on top of this, everything else was quite good for them. Guidance is looking pretty good considering that their cloud services have nice licensing agreements that are increasing for demand, and that's good news for them. For Asana, on the other hand, they ended up dropping after earnings came out because of the fact that earnings were just kind of mixed overall. I would say that earnings, they did technically beat on EPS. They had a loss of about 4 cents versus the 11 cents loss expected. So a little bit better EPS. Our revenue is quite decent overall, but I just want to note that despite they only beat revenue by about 2.12%, so it's very slight, and their estimates actually are quite decent overall. They're kind of like so. So for the future, I would say earnings were pretty good for them. They beat on EPS and revenue, and with a lot of revisions coming out for their trends, they have some mixed revisions about how it's going to happen for like the more long term. But overall, I would say that their EPS for the upcoming year is not looking too bad. They're not guaranteeing like a profit right now. There's no profit guaranteed yet. So I think that's why the share price didn't really react as much. If once they announced it, that's going to be a lot more bullish. Anyways, for NIO, I didn't see anything on their Twitter page. It's been a while, but I do want to note that NIO is seeing some nice improvements so far. So NIO's preparing for an export push for new cars backed by Abu Dhabi that's making some big news. And also we have consumer prices affecting them to some extent, with some signs that there's some signals out there that the Chinese economy is improving a bit. This actually helped NIO to some extent. On top of this, we're starting to see more exports potentially going to be coming out of the water, and that could be happening because of the fact that there's a slight increase in demand for their other commodities. On top of this, there are other analysts right there that have been cutting their NIO targets. But what's good about NIO is that across Europe, we're seeing increased demand for their next their sub brand for Firefly and the Alps brands. So that's good news for them. If anything, with Abu Dhabi making investments, they are still backing up their claim that NIO is a long-term bullish stock, and NIO is going to be looking at more export pushes. This has been announced, which is helping the share price push higher. So good news overall, the fact that we're seeing more export pushes, and we got some nice looking numbers thus far. That's helping NIO. Ever since its earnings came out, we got a little drop in a pop. We had 63 million volume above average, and when it comes to the shortfall, this is continuing to drop. On top of this, Morgan Stanley is giving you an overweight rating, and we're actually seeing the price price ratio kind of flat. So we'll see if any improvements are made. Do not forget that for NIO, we do have a tendency of being green about 55% of the time on Tuesdays. And now let's just break down these charts. So with CPI coming out, I can't predict this with 100% accuracy. I can't make any promises, but I think there's a very good chance that the charts are trying to push into CPI. So I do favor that potentially happening as we look quite bullish. And looking at NIO, this is trying to break its 200 EMA, and the target's going to be 6.34 if we manage to get a break and a hold above 6.12. We're trying to hold above that in the after hours thus far, and the chart does look very bullish. So there's a very good chance that this thing is going to push to 6.34 or higher. But just to be safe, it depends on CPI. If CPI is hotter than the estimates I called out, that's going to be a bit more bearish, and this could turn things down. If it's cooler, we're going to likely push higher. My gut does tell me we're going to likely push higher on NIO. The chart looks very bullish, and that's going to likely continue. Additionally, SPY is trying to turn right here, getting a bounce off its 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. And on top of that, what's very interesting is the fact that SPY has been forming an inverse head and shoulders, and it's looking like it's trying to push approaching the CPI report. So you can see right here, there's an inverse head and shoulders forming. I think that the odds favor SPY trying to push higher, and CPI might cause us to hit at least 514. But I can't promise that. Anything can happen, so be prepared for anything. But I do lean a bit more in favor of bulls for the market. That's the view I personally have. Super Micro may also attempt to bounce. We also have like a slanted inverse head and shoulders like structure, so I could see a retest of 1100, if not 1150, if we do get a bounce. For Tesla popped and ended up dropping back down. Not looking the strongest, but what's good about Tesla, especially when you look at the 4-hour time frame, is Tesla showing a little bit of life. So there is potential for Tesla to retest, is depending if we get a bounce or not. 179. If we break this, we could push a little higher again. It's trying to push, it's trying to show some life, but it's a little bit more tricky because of all this news that's coming out. If Tesla announces that one of their German gigafactories is going to like reopen and get power back, it could start pushing. But this will depend on CPI. It might actually cause a little pop throughout the entire market, which still affects Tesla. IWM may follow the trend, hitting 206. Apple's trying to push, holding 172 quite nicely. We could be looking for a test of 174.43, eventually 175. For the QQQ, it depends on CPI. For bearish, we're going to come down to 436. If we're bullish, 438 is going to break. We're just going to continue to push to about 440. My guts tells me we could be pushing upwards. I do favor that somewhat more now. I think the market's going to try to get a counter trend rally. So we're going to be looking to see if we get this bounce as the chart's looking bullish with an inverse head and shoulders and a nice liquidity grab of 4. For Nvda, it came down a bit. It's still very flat right now, so it's very sideways and indecisive. So we'll just have to see if we can get a break of 876. If we break that, 900 is coming. If we fail to do so, we could come down to 850. My gut does favor the bulls for the market somewhat more, but because Nvidia got some bad news involving them getting sued, I would just be a little bit patient with this one. This is one of those I would just like wait on. But with that being said, that's my view of the markets. I'm open minded to any possibility. I don't truly know what's going to happen. Okay, so be open minded. But I do favor the bulls somewhat more looking at the current technicals. And then judging by the previous CPI data, the fact that it keeps on consistently coming in aligned with expectations for the most part, at least for the last few months, there's a very good chance things are going to be decent and they're going to use this as an excuse to kind of like squeeze the markets again. That does not mean the market is going to just continue to squeeze to all-time highs, but we could see at least somewhat of an attempt of a counter trend move. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you for listening. Have a great day and peace out.